What's going on, creators? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, today I'd like to talk a little bit about uniqueness, and and how you can use uniqueness to empower yourself more and more each day, to experience the life that God created you to live. I know for my experiences of things, being in the music business for, I don't know, 10 years or so now, comparison and like jealousy and envy is like very toxic environment in the music industry. I would say even on like content creating, it's like, oh, how many subscribers does that person have? How many views? How many thumbs up? And it's constant comparison. Oh, that person's so much more attractive. Look at their physique. Look at, this, look how, it's like looking at all these people and then like putting them on pedestals. And then, when you put your others above you, then you're actually kind of putting yourself like down too, as you're starting to tell yourself these mental narratives of maybe why you're not good enough, why you should feel shame, why you should feel guilt, why you feel like you don't measure up to other people. In the realization that everything is unique, a lot of that shit starts to melt away, and it's very empowering. And so that's one of the reasons I want to share that with you guys, because when I started to realize this more and more so, that not only am I unique, but the people I am watching and the people I'm interacting with, every single person is unique in their own special kinds of ways. And you can start to look at their life as a demonstration of some of the areas of their mindset, because everything is really our consciousness externalized in our life. It's how we look, how we engage with relationships. All these key, or sex, money, power. All these types of things. They're all reflections of our relationship, ultimately with God. But until we come to that realization, there's a lot of the times where we see others on different levels of demonstration, and then it can kind of trigger our programming of like, well, let's all of a sudden be jealous and envious. Oh, they must have joined some secret society to be at that level, or they must have sold their soul to Satan to get to that level, or whatever the narrative is. And there can be lots of different stories that you're telling yourself. Oh, they were just born into that. Oh, they were just this. Oh, they were just that. Oh, if it wasn't for this community of people that they are, luckily, it's always luck. It's always happenstance. It's like always like, oh, they just won the lottery and they just got lucky. And even with winning the lottery, I feel like even that is a demonstration of faith, where it's like they believe on some level it's possible, where a lot of people go, well, yeah, I bought the ticket, but I'll never win it. It's just, well, that's a self-defeating mindset right there. But, when it comes to looking at everything going on around you, it's easy to get swept up in this mindset of the masses, of the unconsciousness, of the mass formation, of all this hive-mindedness that you can start to see, at least in my area of the world. That's like a very common thing. It's like, oh, we love diversity. Diversity is strength, and it's like you can be whatever skin color, you can be whatever body shape, you can have whatever sexual orientation, but you just have to think exactly the way we do. It's like, what? It's like nobody thinks the same way either. And that's another part of like uniqueness, where it's like looking at everybody as having a perspective, and maybe one's more in alignment with truth than another person. But even the person that's in error, there's a reason why they believe the things that they believe. They're not just you know yeah, on some level they're like maybe repeating scripts and programming and stuff, but they're still coming from a place of trying to do good. That's an assumption that I have carried for a long time now, from kind of like the beginning of like doing music, so maybe 10 years, kind of holding on to that belief, which a belief is just something that we think over and over, and it has, we just believe it to be true, and our faith is really the activator to a lot of the manifestations, consciously and unconsciously, that are happening to us in our life. And I've found that holding on to that has been helpful to kind of have a brighter perspective towards people. maybe a handful of people are just shitheads that even in being a shithead, they have some sort of a moral code or compass of like, even like when I was in jail, for example, they had people that were in there for like stealing and shit, but like their kind of justification was like, well, I never stole from people, just corporations. It's like, oh, okay. But like everybody's got their little justifications, those little moral compass. And even like people that are violent and shit, it's like a lot of times they have a moral compass, unless they're just being ordered and just being like a bitch to like somebody else that's just, well, I'm just obeying orders, boss, and so it's like, okay, well, and even in that, it's not to judge people harshly for doing that. There's times, I guess, where I may have done that, not probably to some extreme levels where you've seen like the COVID shit, where it's just like, oh, um, let's all think the same thing, do the same thing, impose the same authoritarian mindset on people. And again, with an authoritarian kind of philosophy, you're putting people on pedestals instead of, you know, taking responsibility and ownership for your life, which a lot of people don't want to do for some reason. But when you do that, then all of a sudden things become a lot more magical. It becomes a lot more fun and game-like, because we're always in this process of change. In creation, it's like nothing stays the same. Either it's growing or it's contracting, it's living and thriving, or it's dying. There's a lot of this kind of stuff that you can observe in what is going on in the present moment, which is really where you can start to learn a lot of things about creation. Just that, how, what we think creation should be versus what it is two entirely different things. And so you can incorporate uniqueness. I got 3 turkeys. Each one of them is unique, and each one of them's got its own little personality. But at the same time, 2 of them have been beefing for weeks. As I had to separate them, because just like a switch went off, they just started attacking each other. And they got like this like little thing that goes over their beak, like, I don't know what it's called, but it looks like a little finger or something. They can kind of move it a little bit. But when they're fighting with each other, they're like fucking grabbing it. It almost like a little worm or something. And they'll like grab it and they'll like shove the other one's face in the ground, and they'll just do it for hours. And they'll just like get in each other's face, and they'll just like mirror each other and just like pick at that thing. And I caught them one time like trying to drown it. One of them got that fucking thing and was like drowning it, trying to drown the other one in like the little swimming pool. So not to like have kind of, I don't know, like not a maybe innocent eyes, thinking that everything is just innocent and fun and stuff. It's like sometimes shit can get pretty intense in nature. Even in like human interactions, things can get intense. I mean, people can snap and become unconscious and want to attack and murder each other, and it is what it is. And so a lot of people have the illusion that, oh, I'll just call the authorities and I'll have this person arrested for being disgruntled or whatever. And it's like, by the time the cops get there, someone can beat the living shit out of you. It's like, are you just really gonna just walk around like such an innocent little person, where it's like you never think that you can be confronted by danger or fucking predatory people that are looking to attack and take something from you? It's a law of the fucking jungle, basically. But like the illusion that, oh, we live in a society and that shit doesn't happen. It's like, okay, I don't know. That's not for me. Maybe that's for other people, but maybe that's part of my own uniqueness, is to see things like that. But in that kind of like that understanding is like, everybody's different, everybody's unique, everybody's doing the best they can, everybody's dealing with their own shit, and everybody's kind of coming from a place of trying to do what they feel to be right. And it's like, well, Mike, you have some psychopath serial killers that are they're obviously predatory, and this and that. And it's like, if you get into enough of this shit, you realize most people that are unconscious, which if you're killing other people because you have your own drama going on within you that you're trying to kill, through, it's like, oh, I have these feelings inside of me that I just want to kill. That person outside of me reminds me of that. And so, it's just that kind of shit where it's just like, oh, they're just doing it because they think it's going to relieve their suffering. And then you can start to kind of like disconnect more and more so from like the act of violence and shit to the unique being that they are, that God created. And once you realize that God created everybody to be unique and to serve a function, and it's like, oh well, some people are into these kind of demonstrations, other people are into these kinds of demonstrations, and one's not necessarily better than another. What I feel like is better than another is like, are you providing value to more people? Are you making it more simple? Are you able to take a complicated thing and make it digestible for more people to kind of comprehend and start to apply? Because you can listen to spiritual things and get information overload. There's so much information, little techniques and ways to kind of let go of like spiraling thinking and all of this type of shit. But unless you're like spinning here and now, it's like, what are you doing? Are you telling yourself disempowering things? You're putting people on pedestals. You're like feeling like shit. You're feeling like, oh, do you believe that you can be, do, and have anything? Because you can, and the only reason you can't is because you just don't believe it, because you're listening to slave programming that's telling you that, oh no, you just have to follow in your parents' footsteps in the coal mine. It's like, you can be, do, and have anything. It's all given to you through consciousness, through your relationship with God, and through like non-attachment in a lot of different ways. It's like if you put like manifestations on this pedestal, like oh, if I don't get this SP to like be a robot for me, then I'll be happy. That I can't be happy until this person is like obedient to my will. It's like it's like is that really what you think is going to make you happy? So much of what we want outside of ourselves through demonstration is like, oh, well, we see this person that's already demonstrated maybe abundance, for example, or prosperity, or something that you can easily quantify, where it's like, well, that person's up there, they're at that level, they're at that tax bracket, where it's like, okay, well, instead of having the mental narratives of like, well, they must have a love of money, so they must be evil. It's like, well, that's yeah, you got that from Jesus on some level, but is that the proper understanding? Is that the proper way to look at it? Because when you realize that God is your provider, and that God has said many times through like the Bible that that prosperity and abundance is part of who you are in Christ. It's whether you believe that or not is another thing, because you can start identifying with like crucifying yourself on the cross that you're carrying, or you can start to connect with the living Christ, the resurrected Christ, that is the King of heaven and earth. And according to the New Testament, that spirit is within you. And so it's all about kind of understanding that dynamic, understanding this uniqueness that you are, and it's like, well, Mike, I look at this person out here and they're like a supermodel, they're like super hot. It's like, I believe personally that anybody can be attractive if they're fit, and have their mindset in that same kind of state of mind. It's like you start working out, you start getting fit, you stop having these negative stories you're telling yourself about how you're this, how you're that, because people will just mirror that back to you unconsciously. Most of like feeling like unattractive or feeling ugly or feeling like, ugh, look at this schmuck in the mirror. These mental stories, and then having a distorted perception of yourself. It's like another example, maybe with like an anorexic person, they can still feel fat or whatever, even though they're like super skinny, like to the point where they're about to like be malnourished. It's like, well, I'm still fat right here. It's like a lot of that distorted perception starts to come from just these stories that you're telling yourself about why you're this, why you're that, why you put somebody else up here on this pedestal, and not realizing that they are just demonstrating a mindset physically. Before the physique came, the mindset changed. And you can start changing your mindset too. It'd be amazing. You probably amaze yourself, if you just started going to this path of every day waking up, my body's going to be even more fucking in harmony with this inner vision of where I want it to be. Instead of focusing on just, if I just lost weight, that's one aspect of things. But it's like, start visualizing how you want your body to actually look. Do you want to be like ripped? Do you want to fucking have just strong arms? Do you want to have like a six pack, or do you just want, start getting a vision, and then start using the uniqueness of everyone to see someone who's demonstrating a physique that you kind of appreciate, like, yeah, that they know what's going on because they're demonstrating it. So I want to glean some of their mental attributes, incorporate it to what I've already experienced, kind of mix them together. Because I feel like personally, and this might be a limitation, a limiting belief, but it's like, if somebody's got like a six pack, I don't think that yours is ever going to match theirs because we're all unique, but you can have one on the same level in a unique way that'll look like a unique thing. But I'm putting that to the test myself. I mean, I'm still, I think I've lost like maybe 25 pounds, since last, I don't know, Christmas, winter, last winter, I guess. I'm trying to get down to 160-ish. I haven't weighed myself in probably a month, so I'm not sure exactly where I'm at. But I feel like, the way my belt's fitting and the way my pants and shit's fitting, I might be getting closer to that. But, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm getting my hip replaced in 2 weeks, I guess, and so I want to try to get a lot of the weight off for that too, get in shape going into this surgery, mainly because I want to bounce back as fast as possible. But it all has to do, and then I hear all these people like around me tell me their stories, they got their hip replaced, they got this, and it's all over the place, and so I don't know what to expect with it. But I'm expecting on some level my experience of recovery to be unique. There's like some fear of like the unknown with that. It's like, could it hurt? It's like, a doctor told me I might feel better afterwards, like immediately after surgery, than going into it, because how fucked up my hip is on that side. So who knows? It's like, I don't know what to expect. But, looking at everything as, again, this unique process, everything's unique, you're unique, I'm unique, really is helpful to get people off a pedestal, to start feeling better about yourself and, the people around you. It's like, instead of like looking at them as all like sheep or unconscious NPC type masses, where they're just parroting news narratives and shit. Yeah, if you are in that frame, don't be surprised if that's being reflected back to you in your interactions with people, and that kind of sucks. And so, one of the things you can start to realize more and more so is, for one, the uniqueness, but then realize that all minds are joined, and that that the connection with God within you exists in the other person too, maybe at a different level, of awareness. But as you become aware that everybody is carrying this within them, if you put your attention on that towards another, it'll draw it out of them, and you will see that demonstration not only in the other, but then it'll be a corresponding thing going on within you too that feels good. And you can put that to the test now by thinking positively about another, by wishing somebody well. That's the thing with like music that I experienced is so fucking toxic, where it's like people at different levels treat each other differently, and so it's like you get to a certain level and then it's almost like threatening or something to other people, or like it's like there's no way you can play like that without fakery or trickery or something like that, and so they start spouting off their limiting beliefs and assumptions, which becomes more and more normal, so it doesn't really bother you as much as it did at first, where it's just like, what is wrong with these people, but then when you start to realize, that's their limiting belief that's keeping them at that level of skill, level of demonstration. But when you look to people at higher levels, if you are kind of putting people on pedestal, like, I never can play like that person, or look at how fast they can play, or look at the sweep picking that this person, the tapping, oh my. So, but then once you realize that, that's their uniqueness, that if you focus on just trying to play with the unique skill set that God's given you to play, to try to serve others, give them a good musical experience, you know, you might sound different, but you'll still be at a fucking the same level. It's like you get to a certain like type of playing where it's like within like couple strokes, it's like I recognize that guitar player because they're being unique. It's like, oh, I recognize, dude, that, those licks, that's got to be fill in the blank. Oh, I recognize that kind of rhythm. That's got to be, fill in the blank. And you can start to, as you develop your own uniqueness, to further and further just express who you are in Christ, the more that you'll be able to hit these different milestones without feeling jealous or envious, because then you see others that are at higher levels, instead of it having like sparking your programming of why you can't get there, why you got to be a slave, and why they're superior to you. You can start to change those mental narratives and go, oh, they're unique. I appreciate that they're able to do this. Like there's like I can't remember the name of this group, Polyphia or some shit like that. The way that guy plays the guitar is very fucking unusual to me, but it's interesting, the way they're able to kind of bring it all together in these instrumentals and everything. Totally unique sound, and that's like again one of those examples of like, oh, in 5 seconds I recognize that guitar player. Mainly because they've developed this unique style, which that unique style is inside of everybody that picks up an instrument. It's just how much are you going to develop it, because the source for all that creativity is coming from one source. It's just a matter of how well you're able to tune into it and just let the shit flow without the mental resistances of like, oh, you suck, oh, you sound like this, or you're trying to be like blah blah, whatever the critic inside the mind is trying to get you to buy into, which, that critic has come through years of you believing in separation, that people are on pedestals, that God created some people to be vastly superior to other people. And it's like, there's like, I like watching like MMA, for example. There's people that would just fucking destroy me in a fight big time. I mean, it's just like no question, but where they would do that to me on that level, I could do something, at a different level that they could appreciate, like, oh, watching. It's like I'll like watching people fight, and they like watching me play the guitar, whatever, it's like we all kind of complement each other, and we have different kind of skill sets, different things that, we excel at, what we don't. But ultimately, I feel like another really important mindset to keep is that God creates perfect things, including you. God doesn't create in error. God creates in perfection. And so keeping that in mind when it comes to manifesting different demonstrations, coming from an assumption that there was a mistake that needs corrected in a demonstration, is a flawed assumption, which will then perpetuate this trying to clean up some imperfect system or imperfect thing. When you realize everything's functioning perfectly, even though in that functioning perfectly there could be some drama and suffering and like difficulties to endure, that's part of demonstrating a mindset. If you want to be like a fighter, for example, it's like, I mean, you got to get your fucking ass kicked sometimes, and like, it's not just, oh, I'm just going to beat the fuck out of this other person. You got to be able to take a punch too, what I mean? It's like, when you see like some of these dudes that they're fighting against, it's like, they might get one or two just fucking really solid clocks right in the jaw or something. And it's like, yeah, you might beat that other person, but you got to take, something that they're giving out too. I mean, so that's one of the reasons I have a lot of respect for like fighters and stuff like that. Mainly because there's a level of facing fear. I think that is something I like. It's like anybody that is able to look at fear face it and overcome it, on some level, gains my respect. Like skateboarding, for example, it's like you can look down a flight of stairs and go, oh, I'm gonna go and do a trick, fucking stick it, and not, and just do this. I can respect that, because that's intense. A lot of people are pussies and wouldn't do it, and I feel like most people, when they're just living in fear, living in separation, living under this delusion of, the world or whatever, not to confuse things with the world mindset. Because it feels like, to me at least, when you see like the world, because it's like, well, that's a contradiction, Mike, and it's like there's lots of like mysterious subtleties on things. So it's like, when you're in the world, that's like almost like a force for hive-mindedness, for a force for like, oh, we all got to be conforming, we all got to just live in this like Borg like hive mind, that's just fearful and hysterical and thinks climate is the next fucking obstacle to overcome, that we need to start being hysterical about like the earth, like creation needs our help, which on some level creation is climate, the whole fucking thing is again a reflection of consciousness. If you're in this consciousness of it's like, oh, it's dying, it's all the fucking nature is just whatever, scarcity and whatever, then that's what you're gonna start to see. You're gonna start to see that shit being mirrored back to you, and you're gonna believe it even more. Oh, all the fish are dying. It's like, you have any idea how big the fucking ocean is? Seriously, it's like, oh yeah, I'm sure there's demonstration. Like, Mike, that's fucking lunacy. That's lunacy. It's like, look at these documentaries. Look at this. Look at this. And it's like, again, it's like you believe that, and so you're seeing a mirror. Of course, that's what you're going to see, and you're going to have mountains of evidence that supports your point of view, and you're right. Everybody's right. It's like, but the fact exists. I could pull up contrary evidence in just as much abundance that shows that is not the only way to look at it. That you have to be able to then connect. Like, how does this all go together then? If I have one expert over here telling me that there's a catastrophe coming, one expert over here saying, no, oh, here's a good one. Oh, there's too many people on the earth. And then the alternative, we're on a birth rate collapse. There's just not enough people having babies. It's like both of them are contrary to each other. Both of them have equal amounts of supporting evidence. But ultimately, it boils down to what you believe, your faith. And that's for you to decide these things. Everybody's unique. Everything's unique. The situations you find yourself in, everything is in a process of change, and you're either changing for the better. For example, like your body, you're either waking up each day going, oh, I lost, I'm getting closer to my ideal weight. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting more fit. I can feel my lungs getting better. I can feel, whatever it is with your body. You start being in improvement mode of like, oh, I'm getting fitter, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting healthier, I'm getting this, or you can be in decay, and a lot of that decay is unconscious, where it's, oh, I'm just getting old, oh, I'm feeling the aches and pains again, and oh, it's just getting harder to recover from this shit, and oh, I can't eat pizza anymore, it just hurts my stomach. All these fucking, all this kind of shit of just getting old. It's like you get old in your consciousness first, then you have that demonstration. You get old and flabby because you stop working out and you stop pushing your body. It's like one of the things I've kind of realized about like pain, I guess, is not to sit there and run from it, because when you're exercising and fucking like really working out and stuff, constantly sore in different areas and just like pushing shit and just like going one more than you thought it was possible. It's like, oh, pushing like a wheelbarrow just filled with the rocks. It's like, man, I can't push that up a hill. And it's like, well, try it. And then you do it all day. It's like you get these big blisters and shit on your hands. And it's like, do you tell yourself, oh, I got blisters, my hands are getting more fragile? It's like, no, every time you get a blister, it's just like, oh, it's getting stronger and more callous. I'm getting more and more fit, getting more and more capable. And that's all a demonstration of your newfound consciousness by first taking a new action. That's a really important step, is taking action, because you know not to say that manifestation needs your action to happen and like limit the possibilities, but in my life experience at least, it's like lots of things come from taking action, which then make things more harmonious, of like, oh no, that just happened as I'm taking this action, as I'm doing these different things, these things start to happen, and then next thing you know, there you go. It starts to manifest, you know in ways that are only God can come up with the ways, and the how. So much of that's unknowable. It's just like, even like doing these, it's like I'm doing this right here and right now, but on some level I'll upload this, I'll go fucking on my merry way doing something else, but the listener, I don't know when you're hearing this. I don't know how it's affecting you. I don't know if it's like making you stronger, empowering you, which is like my desire. On some level, is to strengthen you, to empower you, to embolden you, to get to new levels of demonstration. Because I think that's awesome. I think that, why? What else are we gonna do? Sit and be victims and start to slowly die and decay? Or are we going to kind of take things to this next level, see what's possible? It's like, I want the people to listen to this to be abundant, to be prosperous, to be healthy, to be creators, to fucking to live life God created you to live, and to be the change you wish to see, and start to create your own heaven on earth. And I like to watch people that are doing that. I like to spend my attention in that direction, of hope and change, a positive change, but realize that things are creation's finished, and we're just becoming more and more aware of what already is. And so it's like the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God, is already within you according to Jesus. And so it's about tapping into that reality now, which I believe, as you do, then as you consciously realize this correspondence, this inward thing in consciousness, where it's like with your beliefs and your assumptions, your faith is ultimately your fundamental assumption about who you believe yourself to be in relationship with God, your identity. Ultimately, that's being externalized, and so yeah, and I appreciate people that are demonstrating these different levels, because we're all unique. And it's like, oh, if that person hit that milestone in this bridge of incidents, I could then not only hit it too in my own unique way, but level up on top of that. It's like with music, it's like, how many different paths are there? I mean, there's like the one that gets like promoted in the world, through the major labels, of like, well, this is what it means to make it, but what does that even mean? It's like, what do you mean you made it? It's like, because you got lots of money advanced to you. you got a lot of people making money off of you, type thing. Or but even with that, it's like, the more that you are spreading that wealth, you can start to see how it starts to correspond to with abundance, is that it's like what you give to others comes back to you. And so it's like, I'm not necessarily like talking shit about that system, as much as like, you lose a lot of creative control. And when you give away creative control to external forces, well, then you're kind of starving that inner creativity and whatnot. So what does it even mean to be successful in anything? What does that mean? You get to define what that means in your own unique way. If success means that, hey, from the time I get up in the morning to the time I go to bed at night, I'm able to pursue the things that I feel like pursuing. That's maybe one definition of success. Maybe another one is, from the time I get up to the time I go to bed, I don't have a single fearful thought. I'm able to hold on to, demonstrating the fruits of the Spirit all day. Is that success? I mean, maybe, you define what success is, through your demonstration of it, and as you show that to others, and they can take it and mold it and create their unique vision of what success looks like, what abundance looks like, what prosperity looks like, what all that kind of stuff is. And yeah, and so yeah, I just want to share that concept of uniqueness. Hopefully, that helps empower you on some level to feel good about yourself. Because you are a unique creation of God, and God doesn't create fucked up things. God creates perfect things. You're a masterpiece according to God, and so hopefully you start to feel that way. Not put people on a pedestal like you can't feel these ways, you can't do this, you can't do that, and start thinking about how you can, and you are doing these things. And just take a big look at your life. Realize everything that you have is a reflection of your consciousness, like it or not. And to start to change your life situations and circumstances, you got to change your mind, and that change will then reflect out. What is it? Repent, change. There's a radical change of mind. Change your mind from a slave mind to a free mind, for example, and be amazed at how your life will start to demonstrate that freedom as you express the unique creation that you are. And so, with that being said, I think I want to balance. So, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all the social networking things. I appreciate you, your spiritual support and your physical support. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Until the next now, God bless.